Excellent. A government ought to protect and encourage free speech. And why?
Why?
Because free speech is an activity that is conducive to a healthy nation and is in the best interest of its people. Is this a valid conclusion, Giovanna?
No.
No.
It's
I mean, in common sense world, we're like, yeah, I like that. But unfortunately, we don't have, unfortunately, like this isn't, that alone is not enough to guarantee this. Why not, Giovanna?
There are other reasons that for them to protect and encourage free speech.
Right. There are other
Nope,
reasons,
that's
but why are these not enough to guarantee that they ought to? Like, why is the fact that free speech allows for a conducive nation and is in the best interest of the people, why is this not good enough reason for the fact that a government ought to protect and encourage free speech? What do you think, Ahmed?
Um,
You guys are too kind, and that's why you're struggling to think of this.
I mean, first I was like the best interest of. I thought that was the conclusion. That's what I had chosen at first. But is that like the secondary? Because thus isn't that an indicator of a conclusion?
Yes, yep. They're saying like free speech is an activity that is conducive to a healthy nation. So it's in the best interest of the people. Therefore, we ought to protect and encourage free speech.
Yeah, but the flaw here for me is that the government, like, who gives the right to the government to protect free speech? So,
well, you have it like kind of flip, but so like, why does the government care about the nation being healthy? Or why does the government care about the interest of its people? Maybe this is an awful dictatorship and they don't want a healthy nation. Maybe they literally don't give a crap. They're like, whatever, we're going to do whatever we want, whenever we want.
See, like, I'm about to get, okay, assumption. I was going to say, I'm just assuming that it's true, but it's assumption.
Right. Yeah, okay. So, but what could we say about these? Because like our conclusion talks about protecting and encouraging free speech, but we're using healthy nation and best interest of the people to defend that. So what premise could we bring in to guarantee this conclusion? What could we say? So go ahead and type your prediction in the chat. So we want to make sure that a government ought to protect and encourage free speech. If you're struggling, try to connect our premises to our conclusion. Try to use similar terms.
So we're trying to find the flaw here, right? Or we're trying to connect, or we already know the flaw.
Fixing the flaw. So we're trying to connect our premises to the conclusion. And right now it's like, what does a healthy nation in the interest of the people have anything to do with the government protecting free speech? So we want to, so similar how we said Sabrina doesn't have wings, we need to do something similar here.
Yeah.
Taylor was so close. Yes, excellent. Okay, so let's go over this one. So,
hold on.
oh, do you have one? Okay, good. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm like stuck.
Okay, so what, like, the government ought to protect and encourage free speech. Right now, I'm like, why does the government care about having a healthy nation in the best interest of the people? We don't know. So we need to say something that shows why they care about those things. So Taylor said it's vital for the government to have a healthy nation and care about people. Like, I love that. My prediction was the government should do everything possible to have a healthy nation.
Oh, okay.
Or the government should do everything possible in the best interest of its people. Like, if that's true, it guarantees it. So you see how, like, I know it's hard at first to not overthink it, but at the end of the day, it can be simple. So now that we know those conclusions, go ahead and read our answers and put your answer in the chat.
Oh.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into this one. Okay, so our conclusion is the government ought to protect and encourage free speech. Why should they? So let's start with E, universal human rights. Do we know anything about universal human rights?
No.
Nope. That are in the best interest of the people. So this one's wrong because we don't know what universal human rights are. We don't talk about that. Okay. All right, Ahmed, can you tell us why B and C are wrong?
Oh, because same thing with B. It talks about basic alienable rights. Sorry.
Yes, no, yeah.
I just feel like that's irrelevant.
Yeah, we don't know what those are. I think a lot of people assume that free speech and stuff, but unfortunately that's in the best interest of the people. Nope.
And then C talks about activities that helps the government to govern. So it doesn't really, talks about the interest of the people in a sense.
Yeah, well, also, what is answer choice C assuming? What is, if for answer choice C to be correct, what are they assuming? If C were to be correct, like, what is that person assuming?
That the Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that the government wants what's best for their people. They want them
No, not for C.
an activity that helps a government to govern ought to be protected.
What does that answer choice assume about, like, if we were to apply it for it to be right?
That the government is already failing?
No, they're assuming that an activity that helps, that these like free speech and doing things in the best interest of the people is an activity that helps the government govern. But we don't know that those activities will do that. Do you see that? Like, that's what you see why it's wrong. Like, they're making that jump. All right, and then Taylor, why is D wrong?
I don't know because I chose it.
Ivana also picked D, so you're not alone.
But then after you said, because I didn't remember, I said I wasn't paying attention to what you said. Now I can tell you.
Why is D wrong?
Because the statement that you made earlier, we assume that the government is going to do what's right for them. And maybe I keep beating that same dead horse.
Okay, so here we go. So a government ought to protect and encourage an activity that is conducive to the interests of the government. What are they assuming here?
That is conducive, that
free speech
is conducive.
But do we know that?
No.
Do we know that it's in the interest of the government?
And it's probably not, it's probably just the opposite.
We don't know. Yeah, we're like free speech. Do you see that, Taylor?
Yeah.
Is that considered circular reasoning, like, in a sense, or no?
A government ought to protect. If it were true, it would be.
Okay.
Like, if like this was what they were trying to, like, you should encourage this, like, you should encourage those, but it isn't true. So it's not like, because what is conducive to the interest of the government isn't what we're talking about here. Like, we don't know if free speech and what's the best interest of the people are conducive to the interest of the government. Like, why do the government care about these things? Where A just says an activity that is in the best interest of the people, which we know this, right? We have this directly in our stimulus right here, ought to be protected and encouraged by the government. So we literally connect our premise to our conclusion.
Wow.
Can we see that?
Wow.
Yeah, I just thought it was too obvious.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
no, that's when predict. Okay, so if we don't predict our answers and work on predicting these, all of the answer choices sound the same. I think, like, it's like which direction to go. But whenever you do predict it, they will come across very obvious.
Mhm.